Hi everyone, my name is Gary Crawford and I'm COO at XLCubed. It's great to be here at the IBCS virtual conference today. I hope everyone's enjoying it so far. My session is on IBCS reports and how they help communicate the message of COVID-19 business impacts. So a little background on XLCubed. First of all, we're a UK company and we provide Excel-centric business intelligence client tools. So essentially we connect Excel to underlying data like Microsoft Analysis Services, like Power BI, SAP HANA, TM1 Essbase, a wide range of disparate data sources. We provide an extended Excel environment, so we extend all aspects of reporting, really giving more capability, and also on data visualization, which is a key reason why we are here today. Anything which is developed in the Excel add-in can be published to XLCubed Web, where users can access that through a portal or through mobile devices. So we have over 1,000 customers globally, and they range from mid-sized up to some of the largest corporates. And we have a long-standing focus on data visualization. So last month, we passed the IBCS certification process, which I'm very pleased about, and we're really looking forward to bringing that to our customers. Already started to do so, but there's much more to come in the rest of the year. So a brief precursor really to the session is that Jürgen and myself presented something quite similar at the Accounting and Finance Virtual Summit about 5 or 6 weeks ago. There were over 5,000 registrations for the session, which was really pleasing, and we had some great feedback. The main reason for doing that event was to try and help spread the IBCS message to the finance community in the UK. It was primarily a UK event. So I think that was certainly successful as a first seed, and it's something we look forward to doing much more with. There's more information actually on our website at the link just here. So the scenario that I'll be covering today is for a UK software and services company with operations in France and Germany. They've got a new German CFO just joined. He has prior experience with XLCubed and with IBCS. And with the baptism of fire and the COVID-19 situation he's walked into, the CEO straight away is looking for some cost-saving analysis around the various government furlough schemes, and also updated full financial forecasts to the 2020 consolidated plan for the group. So he aims to deliver that in a 1-week time frame, doing so through an Excel-based furlough model, and then implementing AFC software, which is a CPM tool, a proven financial consolidation platform, which will allow that group consolidated view with all the correct handling of the intercompany and the foreign exchange, etc., on the way through. A key part of what he wants to deliver is the IBCS reports, both interactive and then for the formal communication of the business message as the end result. So he wants to deliver real value to the business now with a view to a larger scale transformation project down the line. So with that, let's take a look. So if I minimize PowerPoint and take a look in Excel. So initially just wanted to have a brief look at the furlough model I was talking about. So really it's a Excel workbook taking an extract from payroll, staff salaries, split by country, by department, by seniority level, also information around holiday entitlement, all that type of thing. But ultimately, it's a series of Excel formulas for speed, a series of Excel formulas to generate cost savings at the end of it. This input sheet allows me to create different scenarios. So if I create a new IBCS scenario, maybe we are going to say we're going to furlough 70% of these UK staff. I can go ahead and save that. And you can see the IBCS scenario now comes in with the associated cost savings here. And I can look at that departmentally down the left-hand side. But ultimately, this will generate a load file which can be uploaded to AFC software, as I mentioned. That will be mixed through with the sales forecasts, etc., to give the consolidated overview. So once that environment is in place, you've got a very flexible environment where users can self-serve report. They can do the dicing of data, but they can also do the formal presentation of data and the building of final reports. So those can vary enormously, but simple example on screen at the minute, we've got something comparing actual and plan for 2020 Q1. So this is before the COVID impact hit. We can choose to look at that by country. So you can see everything switches back to UK, back to Germany. And we can also choose to how we want to see this sorted. So it's currently sorted by actuals, so just biggest to smallest. We may actually want to sort that by variance from plan, or even relative variance from plan. But it's just one example report type. The main example we want to look at is actually based on the P&L and looking at the real impacts of the COVID scenarios. So let's bring up that example, and I'm just going to start really from scratch to show you the process. So if I go ahead and insert a new chart, this is connecting, as I said, to the central consolidated database now. So if I add a new dynamic chart, I want to display this through waterfall charts. I want to look at the P&L through waterfalls. So we'll build a vertical waterfall. So we're looking at structural elements. And I need to make a couple of filter selections to begin with. So I need to filter this on thousands GBP. And in terms of the initial analysis we'll use, I actually want to look as a starting point at previous year actuals. So we will also need to select a period, which is going to be 2020. And lastly, of course, we're going to need to select some accounts to display. So if I select account internal, move it down onto categories, I can navigate down through the P&L here and select all the accounts that I'm going to want to see. But just for speed, I'm going to load up a pre-saved list. So you can see that straight away I've got a waterfall chart, and I've got a business sensible waterfall chart, if you like. It's handled everything correctly. So sales are an incoming revenue. Premises costs are obviously a cost, so they're moving right to left. It's identified gross profit, operating profit, etc. as totals. So I'll come back in just a second to how it's actually done that. But that ability to straight away for any user to easily build a meaningful waterfall chart, we feel is very important. It basically handles it by a concept of business rules. And business rules are managing content like what are your revenues, what are your costs, and mapping that to the underlying data. And similarly, what's the current month, what's your actual data, what's your planned data, what's your forecast data. So that's easy to set up, but can also be centrally stored and brought in to your current report so that everyone has access to that. So as I said, in this case, it's given us things like totals. It's ensured that the costs are moving in the right direction, irrespective actually of what the sign is on the incoming data. But alongside that, it actually provides a lot more. So if I make this chart a little bigger, just based on what I want to do next, let's move analysis down onto columns. So we're currently looking at previous year, prior year actuals. Maybe we want to compare that to plan. So this is the final plan. And you can see as soon as I've selected plan, that's come in, and it's come in outlined with the IBCS notation. So therefore, if I bring in a couple of the scenarios as well, so maybe best case and lead case, you'll see that they come in hatched. So it understands that central IBCS concept of solid outlined hatched, and it's able to apply those dynamically to charts as you select the data, which means it's very easy and very instant to understand what's going on screen. So maybe if we restrict this to be, we lose the best case and go with the one that we think is going to happen. And in terms of the layout, I'll just move them down onto rows. So you can see here we've got a vertical layout where I'm able to compare the length of the columns, and obviously the length of these columns is proportional to each other. So I can see we've moved from prior year to planning for things to improve to things being significantly worse. Now we're in the COVID environment. The report I actually want to build here is going to be looking at the plan versus the lead case COVID scenario. So if I just remove previous year actuals, and I will move this onto columns, so we've got them side by side. Let's try that again and do what I meant to do. There we have it. So now I'm going to resize this chart a little bit as well based on the rest of what I want to do. So if we move this down to about this kind of size. Okay, so from here, there's a couple of changes. First of all, I just want to make to this chart before I copy it and build out the rest of the report. So the first one would be, I'm going to remove the border. And then secondly, there's a couple of, the charts are interactive, as you've seen. There's a couple of interactive settings that I'm just going to turn off. So if I turn off the reset zoom and also the back and forward controls, we should be good to go. Okay, so alongside the waterfall, we're going to want to see some variance charts to look at both the actual and the relative variance. So if I copy this, I can paste it immediately alongside. And then from here, I'm going to want to change the chart type. So I can change the chart type here so that we're looking at an absolute variance chart. And then obviously I'm going to need to make some selection changes as well. So I'll need to move the analysis down here. And we will want to compare the CV COVID lead case with the plan. Okay, so I've got now the chart that I want to display. It's a little big and I don't want to duplicate the categories. So let's just remove the categories. So it's also too big, so I can resize the chart using the XL selector here. Let's just go for 3 columns. Okay, so with that chart, and there's a couple of other things I want to talk about in this chart, but let me just copy it first, paste it immediately alongside, and we can now change the chart type from an absolute variance to relative variance. You can see it's done that for me. With that, I'm just going to put the measure on the chart here, and similarly for this guy. Okay, so we're in pretty good shape, but not perfect shape quite yet. But there's a couple of things I wanted to point out just about the chart. So the first one really is that the business layer that I talked about, when we've inserted the variance chart, it's understood straight away that employee costs here, they've fallen. So you can see there's a negative 9261, but it's highlighted that in green because it understands that because it's a cost, a reduction is actually a benefit to the business. So that works out of the box through the business rules, all the way down that hierarchy. The one other thing that we need to do at this point, or we should do at this point, is to set a common scale so that the length of the bars that we're seeing in the variance chart is in proportion to the length of the bars that we're seeing in the waterfall charts, which is now the case. So we've now got a set of charts showing me the plan, what we think is the most likely case for the COVID scenarios, and also the variances, both absolute and relative alongside that. So it's a nice, concise report that gives you a very clear view on the business. Let me just take I just want to remove the move size setting from each of these charts as well. And then I actually want to switch across to a final view of this report, so a slightly more built out version of this example. So you can see here, we've got the bones of the same report in the middle. We've added a couple of slicers and some additional charts down below. But from an interactive reporting perspective, this gives the user the ability to compare any scenarios to each other. So if we want to compare, it's currently looking at worst case. If we want to compare it to lead case, we just update it. Everything's going to update and sync all the way down the line. And the other thing with this report is that the charts down at the bottom, which are split by country and by month, and I should say this was based with April being the current month, so you can see the actuals right up to April, and then forecast after that. And you can clearly see at the bottom the issue we've got when we're looking at sales, the heavy drop-off from plan down to what the forecast now is. You can see from the start of the year, actually, things were going pretty well. So we were actually on or over plan. But yeah, also this is interactive in terms of if I want to look at gross profit instead, I can click on gross profit in the main chart or operating profit, and these will update in sync. So we go back to sales. Maybe we're specifically interested in this segment of data. We can zoom the whole thing, it will all zoom down. So it's an interactive experience you're getting at this point, all slicer driven, very easy for users to, to work with. But let's come back to the core premise of where we started. We want to communicate a message around this report, and we want to present that to the board. So that would be plan versus the lead case, the most likely scenario. So if we go back to the example that we just built, which is this guy, how would we go about then communicating that? So essentially I can select an area of data within Excel here, and I can go XLCubed, create message. And what that does is bring me into an editable canvas where I can really define this as I choose. So I can set up the message, the overall message of the report, which is obviously important within the IBCS environment. I can do the who, what, when in terms of the title, and basically I open any of these up and it's just a case of supplying whatever text I choose. And then importantly here I can easily add comments, highlights, annotations as I need. So rather than watch me type in a message and a title, I'm going to switch across to one where that's already been done. So you can see I've added the message here, a title beneath, and I've added a first comment. But I want to extend that a little bit more. So actually one other thing just to mention, the labels, etc. within this environment can be moved around as you choose. So if they're not exactly where you want in the interactive report, you can quickly change that within this message environment now. But if I want we can see that we're referencing the 32% reduction in sales here in the overall message. So I could quickly highlight that. We're also referencing this minus 9.2K in terms of the employee costs. So again, I can highlight that here. We've already made a comment, or I've already made a comment in terms of the sales. I want to add a couple of additional comments really. So I've got them pre-saved over here on my other screen. Let me just copy that. So I want to add one on employee costs for the 44K just here. So I can add a new comment. You can see that gets added immediately alongside the existing one. I reckon it's going to need to be a bit bigger. So if I now double click in here, paste in the content, make that guy bold. So I've got my comment around employee costs and what we're doing to achieve that cost reduction. And then lastly, I want to make a comment on the profit after tax of 2403, so just down here. So I'll add an additional comment. Again, make this a little bigger. Come in, edit it as we choose. Okay, so I've got my correctly messaged, titled, and annotated report, and it's now at this point a case of how do I want to share that across the organization. So essentially I can take that and I can publish it to our portal environment where people are able to access it through browsers, maybe through the standard company intranet, or through their mobile devices. Or alternately, I can simply switch that out directly into PowerPoint. So you can see I've got my PowerPoint slide here, and I could still edit that further within PowerPoint. You know, the labels are still accessible, etc. But that can obviously be brought into any PowerPoint deck you choose, communicate it to the board as part of a formal meeting, or through the portal as I mentioned. But hopefully that's been useful for you all. I think I'm at the end of my time. It's really to give you the picture of how you can easily build the IBCS compliant reports and how they can be very useful when it comes to communicating that final message and what a straightforward process that can be. Often done through PowerPoint, couldn't be simpler. So I hope that's been useful. Over to you guys for any questions.